Now, we're delighted to be joined by two men here, Patrick Murphy and Ollie Maguire, and they're members of the Tulla Pipe Band, and we're delighted to have them here on Saturday Chronicle. Can you hear us there, Patrick and Ollie?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ollie here.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Thanks very much for being with us here on Scariff Bay Community Radio. Patrick, I might actually start with you. I suppose everyone is very familiar with the Tulla Pipe Band at this stage, but can you just talk to me about how the band was established back in 1936?
Yeah, the band, as you said, was established in 1936. It took over from a brass band that was in the parish at the time. It started off, an army officer came by the name of Walsh, came out to Tulla and trained a couple of new recruits. It started in January. The training started in January 1936, and by St. Patrick's Day in 1936, the band played out for the first time in Tulla, and it played at local GA matches and local events all along since then. They practiced in the Temperance Hall in Tulla at the time, and in the early 60s they bought the band hall, which we currently train in. I think it was bought for about £50 in the early 60s, and it consisted of local parish people. I suppose early in the time there was a parish rule there for a number of years where the members of the band had to be from the parish of Tulla, and I think in the early 60s that was abolished to allow a couple of people in. I think Michael John Quigley and Michael O'Rourke, I think from Clooney, joined the band at that stage, and that abolished the parish rule. So
and Patrick,
it was established in 1936.
And you mentioned there about the parish rule. I mean, it's crazy, actually. It sounds crazy, to think that you had to be from the parish to join the band. But if that rule was still applied today, you'd have no one in the band now.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. I suppose at the time everything was more localised. People, I suppose, in the early days probably commuted to the band hall on a bicycle or walked. I've got a lift or a tractor or something like that. Whereas people are coming out. Ollie Maguire on the other line, it travels from out Limerick direction to the band. There's people coming from back West Clare. Tom Fly is from Cora Clare.
That's right.
John McMurphy is living in Doonbeg. To be honest, nowadays I'd say nearly over 50% of the band probably come from outside of the parish, and it's a great thing because there's fantastic musicians in all parts of the county and outside of the county, and it's great to have them coming to Tulla to play with the band.
And Ollie, we'll get to you in a second, but Patrick, I just want to talk about your own life in the band. How long are you in the band, and why did you want to join it?
I am in the band, I think 20 years this year, Dara. I joined, I suppose Michael O'Rourke was recruiting at the time. Michael O'Rourke and John Leamy were teaching young guys and girls the pipes back in 2001, and I joined. I suppose I always just had a love for the band. I was always in Tulla for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and just to the sound of the band, the sound of the big drum, we used sit down the street down near Super Value at the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and you'd hear the band at the other end of the town starting up, and you knew the parade was coming, and the band was always just, I always just loved the sound of the band and still do, but it was great. And like that, when I joined the band, it opened up a lot of options, met new friends, travelled to competitions within Ireland and travelled outside of Ireland and stuff like that, and it was a great experience.
Yes. So, Ollie, we mentioned there about the parish rule. People from Tulla could only join the band. But since that rule was broken, as Patrick mentioned, you're from Limerick. So tell me when you joined the band.
Well, I joined about 12, 13 years ago. I had been a piper already back in Newcastle West, where I come from, and I hadn't played then for a long time, for years, because with work and whatever, life takes over and that. But I was playing with a band before I retired, and then I found it kind of hard enough to practice on my own sometimes. But I knew there was a band in Tulla because I used to pass through Tulla now and again, and
yes.
I decided the best thing I could do was to go back up. So I made inquiries about the band. Actually, I rang Considine's pub one night. I didn't know who to ring, and they said Pat Danaher was there. So he did a phone interview for me at the time, which was kind of new then. And he asked me a load of questions, and then he said, right, come on up on, we'll say, whatever night they practiced. And he met me anyway and brought me up and introduced me to the lads. And I was like Patrick there, like I always liked the band. And if I ever happened to be somewhere where there was a pipe band playing, I'd always kind of fall into step in line with them and march off down the street behind them. So I was glad to be back anyway and to practice with a full band, you know, loved the roll of the drums and the whole lot. Yes. And sure, then I started playing with the band and matches and everything that went on, festivals. And that was it. I'm still there today now, but of course I'm getting on a bit now. But I'm enjoying it.
Yes, very good.
And I turn out whenever I can.
So, gents, this is Jennifer here. We haven't met yet. So for those of us that wouldn't be familiar with the Tulla Pipe Band, what do you think is the appeal?
I suppose from my point of view, Jennifer, I suppose I like it's the exposure, I suppose, and the events you play at. Like, I suppose first and foremost, the atmosphere within the band. There's a great sense of community in the band. We're like a bunch of friends. Like, you might meet for a couple of months, and then when you get together again, you have great catch-ups. And like our practices, as much and all as we like to practice, we spend probably the bulk of the time talking about what happened in the previous week and stuff like that. It's like a nice catch-up. But then when you're playing out, I suppose the events you get to play at, like Munster finals and St. Patrick's Day parades and festivals, and people have a great appreciation for the band. And even like when you're finished playing, you could be walking back through the street and people just come up to you and say, you know, you play great, and they love the sound of the band. And there's just such a great appreciation and a love for the band around the place, and it's great to be part of that. Like,
fantastic. And can I just ask, obviously, you know, as bands go, you would likely need new members from time to time. So are you currently recruiting, and if so, what instruments and what players are you looking for?
Yeah, I suppose we're always recruiting. At the minute, we haven't a formal kind of recruitment drive on at the minute. Like, there's always people that can play instruments are always welcome in the band. Like next September, we plan on having a big recruitment drive for the band. In fairness to the existing drummers that are there at the minute, Noeline has put in a great amount of effort and has brought on some great young drummers in the band. We're probably looking for pipers, to be honest with you, pipers, tenor drummers. We're looking for a drum major at the minute, probably to go out and lead the band at the very front. But next September, we'll be publicising it for a big recruitment drive next September. And like that, it's no longer within the parish. Anybody around East Clare that has an interest in joining the band are more than welcome. Our band hall is in Tulla. We'll probably have in practice on Wednesday and Friday nights, and it'll be publicised in social media, and anybody that wants to join is more than welcome.
And of course, it is very important, you know, to have members, because, you know, without new members coming along, you know, the band won't be able to survive.
Exactly, and it's the most important part. Obviously, every member is important, but it's really important to see young people coming into the band. They are the future, obviously, and no more than that, when young members join, it's important to keep the interest there. And when you have younger members in the band, you're inclined to do more things with the band, to travel a bit more and maybe compete and put yourself out there a little bit more. And it's definitely the youth in the band is the most important part of it.
And come here, Ollie, I'll get you again in a minute. But you mentioned there about trips there, Patrick. In 2014... you were invited to the St. Patrick's Day Parade in 5th Avenue on New York. That must have been a fantastic experience. Tell us about that. How did it all come about?
It was. I suppose, as you said, the Clare Association in New York were celebrating a big anniversary, and we were invited to go out to New York. We got great help in New York from Danny Maloney and Bill Lewis and people like that in New York. And we fundraised for about 3 or 4 months, I suppose, and there was great generosity shown to the band from the people of East Clare and all around Clare. And we fundraised for a couple of months, raised some money, and we travelled out to New York in March of 2014. It was 5 days we were out there. We played in the parade in Brooklyn. We played in the parade in 5th Avenue in New York. We travelled out to Ellis Island. We did a public reception in New York City Hall. It was just an absolutely fantastic experience, and it had been spoken about for many years in the band to travel to New York, and it happened. It all happened very quickly within the space of a couple of months, and it was a fantastic experience, and it opened our eyes as to what can be achieved in the band when we put our heads together. And like that, we'll be 90 years in 2026, and I hope that we travel somewhere again, maybe New York, maybe Boston or something like just that, just to have a goal to travel and just to get out there. And it's a great experience, and the further away from home you go, sometimes the more you're appreciated almost. Like in New York, we were like celebrities for the few days we were out there. It was fantastic. It was a trip of a lifetime, to be honest.
And Ollie, I'm going to put the same question to you. I know you were on the trip to New York as well. How did you find the experience of going to New York?
Oh, it was excellent. We were treated very well out there and made welcome everywhere we went. We saw parts of New York, that normally, I suppose, we wouldn't have gone to. But we were made to feel very welcome. We had a great time there. And as well as New York, like we went over to Huddersfield there a couple of years, and we had a great old time there as well. And we met a lot of. We went up to the Oris, met Michael D and his wife and everything. We had, we went places and met people that we wouldn't normally kind of meet. I remember earlier in the time we played with the Chieftains in the Cathedral in Ennis, and all those great experiences.
Yes,
so,
and as Patrick mentioned you'd hope in the future, probably sooner rather than later, that you get to go to these places again.
Oh, I'd love to, yeah. Great opportunities.
Yes, and Patrick, I'll go back to you again. You were also invited to the Aviva Stadium to play the national anthems of Slovakia in Ireland. How did that come about? That was a huge honour for the band.
We were, I suppose, in I think it was 2011, the local soccer club, Tulla United, were opening their venue in Craig and Tulla, and John Delaney, among others from the FAI, was down, and we played there, and we got speaking to him, and he invited us up to play at the Aviva Stadium for that event, and it was fantastic to play in such a big stadium, a big event, and it was definitely a great experience. And it just shows, like, we have I suppose what we call big events and small events in the band, and the small events are as important as the big ones, because you get talking to people, and like there might be somebody in the crowd that you play for, and they might say, God, the pipe band would be great now playing at some other larger event. And it's really important. Every event is really important for us, and like that, a local event in Tulla led to us playing up at an international soccer game in the Aviva Stadium.
And I suppose,
it was a fantastic experience.
What would be the usual events that you would be doing? Would it be mostly the county finals, hurling and football, and small festivals here and there?
It would, sure, yeah. Like our year probably begins, I suppose. It begins and ends on New Year's Eve. We play in Tulla every New Year's Eve at 12 o'clock to ring in the new year in Tulla. It's a tradition going back for years and years. And then I suppose St. Patrick's weekend or St. Patrick's Day is the first event of the year. Depending on what day St. Patrick's Day falls on, we might be playing for 2 or 3 days at different parades around the county. Then we play at different events during the summer, festivals and stuff like that. And I suppose the county finals in at this time of the year, late October, early November, are kind of the finish of the year for us. We play in the Clare County final, we played in the Tipperary County final, Galway County final. So yeah, that's kind of the year for us, kind of from St. Patrick's Day to November is kind of our year.
And speaking about the county finals, we have a piece here on the computer that we're going to play for you now. It was recorded last Sunday at the county hurling final, and we'll just play maybe 30 seconds of it, of ye practicing beforehand. Now, that was just a small snippet there of you practicing beforehand for the county final there last Sunday. Fantastic music there. And I suppose, maybe, Ollie, I might go to you now. We mentioned there about the parish rule and how only members from Tulla were allowed to join the band. But a man with the name of Michael John Quigney, he was the first... you probably say outsider really to join the band once the rule was broken 60 years ago, and sadly he passed away there a couple of months ago. What are your memories of Michael John?
I always loved to meet him. Like, we always had a great old chat, and when Patrick might call out what tunes we were going to play, Michael John would say, well, how does that one go again? Because I'd be standing fairly near him usually. So we'd kind of hum it to each other or something like that. But he was always good and a pleasure to meet. And I must say, a real gentleman.
And Patrick...
And just while you were playing that little snippet there,
yes.
Look, it reminded me of Clare My Heart My Home, when we played that with Kilfenora and it was recorded, and I like to hear it on Clare FM from time to time.
Yes.
So that was just another thing that came to mind there.
And you mentioned it there, we will actually play Clare My Home after this interview as well for you. But Patrick...
Oh, lovely.
Patrick, Michael John Quigney was in the band for 60 years, a phenomenal achievement.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, it's I suppose it's a lifetime of dedication, in fairness to Michael John. And like that, speaking of some of the smaller events we played at, Michael John was always there, no matter what we were playing at or what the event. He would always show up, and he worked obviously very hard in his professional life, but he always made time for the band. And like, he was always somebody, when I joined the band, you'd look up to him, or if you didn't know something, you'd speak to Michael John about it, because he was so easy to talk to, and he was such a nice person, and like, the dedication he gave to the band was phenomenal, and he'd be greatly missed. He played up to within a couple of years of his passing, and like, he was just a gentleman. He was a great musician, and he'd be a massive loss to the band, in fairness.
Yeah, and just going back to the recruiting side of things, if anyone would love to join the band, who can they contact?
I suppose they can contact probably the Facebook page is probably the best way of getting in contact with us, Dara. We have a Facebook page. If you'd like to follow us on it, and send us a message, we'll give you information on how to join the band. The band hall in Tulla is located up near the graveyard. We practice there most Friday nights at 8:30. If anybody would like to join, they're more than welcome to call into us. As I said, we're kind of working after COVID. We hadn't practiced and met as a group for a while, so we're kind of working on our own senior band at the minute. And as I said, next September we'll be starting with beginners and people that would like to join the band at that stage. But if there's anybody in the county that can, like, I know there's a couple of musicians back in Kilmaley, and there's a couple of people locally in Tulla that we didn't even know they moved to the area, and we didn't even know they played with a band previously, and they have joined us. And it's great. Like, if there's anybody within the county that has played with a pipe band previously and would like to join us, by all means, please get in contact, because we're always looking for people like that have experience. And as I said, next September we'll be having a recruitment drive for beginners, and we'd love people from all over East Clare to come and join us. Yeah, and can you just the final question now before we leave you, just remind our listeners again, what roles in the band are you specifically looking for? Well, I suppose, as I said, we kind of we're very good on snare drummers, tenor drummers and pipers, and a drum major probably also out the very front to lead the band is a role we'd love to get somebody into. But I suppose pipers and tenor drummers are the two biggest things. And like that, it doesn't matter if you haven't played an instrument previously. It doesn't matter, because it's the bagpipes, I suppose, are different to any other traditional instrument that you would play, and it's open to anybody that would like to come along and give it a try. We provide lessons for people, and it's up to themselves to go away and practice then for the couple of nights between the lessons. And it takes a while, but it's as I said, it's a great instrument to play. you have great exposure. The band is a fantastic organisation to be in. There's a great atmosphere in it, and you get to travel and meet some great people. And I'd recommend anybody in the area that has an interest in the band to make contact and to join.
And you're playing tomorrow as well for the football county final in Ennis?
We are. We've played, as I said, it's a busy time of year for us. We the intermediate final last Saturday, we the senior hurling final last Sunday, and we the football final this Sunday. And as I said, depending on how they fall, sometimes we get asked up to do the Galway County finals and the Tipperary North County finals. So it's a busy time of year for us. But like that, we get a great reception wherever we go, and we're well looked after. And it's a great experience to play for 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000 people, and the cheer going on the field. It's a great experience.
Well, listen, on that note, we'll have to leave it there. So, Ollie Maguire, thank you so very much for coming in, and Patrick Murphy as well. Thank you both for taking the time to be with us here on Scariff Bay Community Radio.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, thanks a million.